and rock and roll.
Good evening. Thank you for attending the Baltimore County Executive's third Budget Town Hall for District 1, hosted by your County Executive, Johnny Olszewski Jr., and your County Councilman, Councilman Tom Quirk. I am Pete Kriskumis, the Director of the Executive's Office of Community Engagement, and I am pleased to introduce to you Mandy Remmel, my colleague and your Community Outreach Coordinator.
Good evening. I'm excited to join you tonight for the District 1 Town Hall. My name is Mandy Remmel, and I am the District 1 Outreach Coordinator for the County Executive's Office of Community Engagement, and we appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mandy. Many of you may know Mandy as your point of contact for constituent inquiries or from your community meetings, and her serving as the co-chair of the Interfaith Advisory Group. In a moment, I will turn it over to Councilman Quirk for brief remarks, but first, I want to thank those who have submitted their questions or concerns in advance. The County Executive, one of his department heads on the call, or Councilman Quirk will answer as many of your budget-related questions as possible tonight. For those who are watching through social media, you may submit your budget-related questions in the comments section. They will be answered after the County Executive's budget presentation. If we cannot answer your questions tonight, Mandy Remmel, your District 1 representative, will follow up with you. It is now my honor and privilege to welcome your Councilman, Councilman Tom Quirk.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pete Kriskumis. It's good to see you. Many people in District 1 remember Pete when he used to work for our office, representing, Arbutus and Lansdowne and Relay and Hillthorpe, and did a great job for us, of course. And Mr. County Executive, it's great to see you as always. And I appreciate you bringing out your whole entire staff. It's great to see all the department heads and everybody working in your administration, all the leaders that are here tonight. I think that speaks volumes. And I did want to just start off the meeting by thanking our County Executive, Johnny Olszewski. He's done an outstanding job since he's been elected. He's been nothing but transparent. He's had a really tough, set of cards that have been dealt. When he took office, we had substantial issues with our operating budget. We had a lot of issues with our capital budget. That alone would be a challenge enough. But then, of course, as everybody knows that's on this call tonight, about a year ago this time, we were in the really, really darkest moments of this global pandemic. That was, to say the least, a very, very challenging moment for all of us, not only from a county government standpoint, but just from a health and human safety standpoint. But, working together and really with the county council and the county executive working hand in hand, we've been weathering the storm, had to make a lot of tough decisions and really tough decisions, but we're getting through it together, not only as the county executive office and the county council, but fortunately, we've had a lot of citizen engagement through things like this town hall that have absolutely been important. So I did want to once again thank the county exec and all the department heads and Pete and the whole team. And I also want to acknowledge on the call, even though you can't see them, they're texting me on my cell phone, so I know they're on this call. We do have the local county council staff that has been representing District 1. Two of the three have been representing District 1 for 10 years now. And then Brian Morris is also on the call. Brian is now working more the southern part where Pete used to work. And Brian represents Lansdowne and Arbutus and Hillthorpe and Relay and a lot of the southern part of the district. We have Kathy Ingers on the call, although you do not see her, she's on listening. And Kathy Ingers represents Catonsville and more the center part of the district. And then we have Margaret Stokes, and Margaret Stokes helps us more the northern part of the district, whether it's Dogwood or Woodbridge Valley, Westview Park, Woodlawn, but lots and lots of great communities and a very diverse district. And so it is definitely a pleasure to be here tonight. I think these town halls are great. It's a really good opportunity for the county exec and the council and the entire government for Baltimore County to hear your concerns and listen and make sure we're communicating. So with that, I'd like to introduce our county executive tonight, a man who really needs no introduction, who's really been an outstanding leader, has brought a lot of transparency to government, and has been a good friend and a great leader. Our county executive, Johnny Olszewski.
Thank you, Councilman. Really appreciate you being here tonight and for cultivating great leaders of your own. We were honored to steal Pete and make him part of our administration, but you also have an amazing team on your council suite. So thanks to all of them for their partnership. Thanks to all the other amazing leaders in our administration who are here tonight. I especially want to thank everyone for joining us virtually. It is great to be with you. I look forward to the time when the councilman and I can be with you in person again. Councilman Quirk, I just have to say, has been a tremendous partner on the county council. He has been the fiscal leader, and he has been someone that I have relied on tremendously as we have really tackled some of the challenges that have been in front of us. Councilman Quirk also mentioned the department heads who are here tonight. I want to thank our administrative officer, Stacy Rogers, as well as our department heads for joining us, and our deputy directors and other key personnel. I am truly thrilled to be working alongside our team and with Councilman Quirk and all of you to build a better Baltimore County. And over the last 2 years, we truly have set new standards in local government, and we've set a new and better way of doing things for Baltimore County. We came together last year for a series of town halls under a very different set of circumstances. In partnership with you, Councilman Quirk and his peers in the colleague and his peers on the council, we had closed an $81 million deficit. We had put our county's fiscal house back in order, and we had consistently maintained our AAA bond rating, something that again was most recently affirmed even in the midst of this pandemic. So we were really on stronger footing, and we were positioned for progress. We had enacted unprecedented ethics reforms and accountability actions. We have been releasing public dashboards, bringing new levels of transparency to government. And we were set to build upon record funding for things like schools and other investments in our communities. But then abruptly, we were struck with the COVID-19 pandemic, which completely upended our entire way of life. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were forced to work with the county council to cut over $100 million in spending, but we did manage to pass a budget that focused on the essentials: education, public safety, and those critical services that our residents rely on. We also began the preparations for an unprecedented crisis, the likes of which we had never seen. About 1 year ago today, the county recorded its first case of COVID-19. Today, we have over 51,000 confirmed cases, and unfortunately have lost over 1,200 of our neighbors and loved ones. We know that countless residents have lost their jobs or their business, and that almost 250,000 county residents at one point have had to file an unemployment claim to the state of Maryland. But within weeks, we also were able to pivot quickly, building a COVID-19 testing operation and providing over 440,000 tests free and without a doctor's note, giving out PPE, creating a robust contact tracing operation. And we've also seen and stepped up to the immense needs of our communities, because we believe local government has an obligation to help people meet those basic needs. So we are, in fact, stepping up and meeting those needs. In partnership with Baltimore County Schools and the library, we've given out over 15 million meals. Also partnering with organizations like the Maryland Food Bank, H&S Bakery, and local Baltimore County farmers. Through our eviction prevention program, we've given out over $5 million to help 1,400 households stay in place. In June, we started phase 1 of that eviction prevention program, distributing $1.2 million to about 485 households. In phase 2, we allocated $5 million and partnered with nonprofits like the Community Assistance Network and Catholic Charities to distribute those funds efficiently. And through our initial phases, we found that the majority of applications for rental assistance were coming from 9 zip codes across Baltimore County that had high rates of housing instability and poverty, in addition to high rates of COVID-19 transmission. As a result, we were able to create an innovative partnership with the United Way of Central Maryland, providing 4.2 million more to over 900 households in those communities. And we look forward to doing more on this front. Proud to announce that the county recently secured, and Councilman Quirk and the council recently accepted, a $24.7 million grant from U.S. Treasury through its Emergency Rental Assistance Program. We expect that we can help at least another 1,250 families as a result. We're also closing the digital divide in Baltimore County, providing 6 months of Comcast Internet Essentials to about 11,000 of our households. We created a program to help our low-income families pay for childcare, supporting those who have school-age children currently in remote learning. We stood up a similar program for county employees who also have school-age children. And we are doing all that we can to help our neighbors, residents, and businesses alike get to the other side of this crisis. That is why we provided millions of dollars to help restaurants and businesses stay open, and millions more to keep staff and customers alike safe. We've given out over 1,350 grant applications across 6 different programs, totaling $21 million. About 13 million of that have gone directly to our restaurants. And through our small business reimbursement grant program, we've helped nearly 300 businesses install equipment that helps prevent the spread of COVID-19. We've given out about $4 million as part of our small business relief grant program, and over 50% of our grants have been awarded to minority and women-owned firms, exceeding our goals. Now, with the arrival of the vaccine, we are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Our first vaccine dose was given on December 23rd, and since then, Baltimore County has consistently been a leader in the state among local jurisdictions for the number of residents who've been vaccinated. We're capable of administering up to 1,000 doses an hour just at our main site at the Timonium Fairgrounds. Over 156,000 residents have been vaccinated, about 20% of our residents. And now, almost 100,000 of our residents have received both doses. That's over 1 in 10. But we know we have more work to do, and we're committed to doing all that we can to vaccinate our residents as quickly as we can. We're working to expand access to our vaccination sites. I mentioned the fairgrounds, which has been heralded as a statewide, if not national, model. We opened up a similar clinic at CCBC Essex, which followed our second at the Randallstown Community Center. We're also partnering with Uber to ensure that those who don't have transportation can get to a county-run vaccine clinic. In addition, our health and fire departments are working together to vaccinate those who are homebound. And we know that we can do so much more in Baltimore County. And we're ready and we're willing. We just need to have those vaccines. So in the meantime, while we wait for those vaccines from the federal and state government, we ask for your continued patience because we continually have a limited number of supply and we are at the end of that supply chain. But in the meantime, please continue to help us stop the spread and save lives. Wear your mask, practice social distancing. And today we announced that we will continue to align with the state at 5 p.m. tomorrow, lifting the capacity limits at restaurants and other businesses, which makes it all the more important that we do the right thing with mask wearing and social distancing. If, in fact, our data in the coming week shows that Governor Hogan's order creates a detrimental impact to health, safety, and welfare of our residents, we are prepared to take steps to increase restrictions as needed to limit the spread. So again, let's all come together and help us stay on the path to win this fight against the disease. Even amid the crisis and amid our response to COVID-19, we have continued to work to strengthen our communities, taking significant actions to reform county government and move our county forward. And I'm very proud of what we've accomplished these past 2 years. Let's start by talking about some of the work in District 1. In Baltimore County, we have dedicated over $220 million to improve our schools in District 1, including $151 million for a new Lansdowne High School, which is currently in the design phase, and $55 million more for a new Chadwick Elementary School, which is in the construction phase. In addition, we have budgeted millions for maintenance and repairs at schools across the district. And moving forward, we'll continue to do all that we can to meet the basic needs of every student and every community. Additionally, we've budgeted $4 million for a major renovation of the Catonsville Library, which is in the design phase. And we're providing $1.2 million for the design and construction of a new 8,800 square foot Woodlawn Health Center in partnership with our friends at Set the Captives Free. Moving forward, we are also planning and designing to construct a new Wilkins Police Precinct, with that study being ongoing and funding set aside. We've also budgeted millions for improvements to recreation and parks in District 1. That includes $460,000 to renovate the Benneker Museum, including its furnace and air conditioning units, $100,000 to study the creation of a Western Hills Community Center, and $55,000 to renovate the Sandy Hills Skate Park. We're also proud to have budgeted a record $35 million for Rec and Parks capital projects in our upcoming budget, because we have an obligation to maintain our infrastructure and provide these critical services to you. We've also budgeted hundreds of millions of dollars to maintain and improve our water and sewer infrastructure, as well as to keep our roads and bridges safe for drivers and pedestrians alike. We're proud to have budgeted record funding for road resurfacing, including about $3 million for a major road, curb, and sidewalk project in Hammondsbury, which has completed phase 1. We remain committed to innovating and doing all that we can to ensure that your community continues to thrive. And we're proud to see Catonsville officially named as Baltimore County's first ever arts and entertainment district. Thank you for your partnership, councilmen and community members in this process. Education across Baltimore County remains a priority, and in our first 2 years, we've provided back-to-back years of record funding for public education, including over $240 million towards shovel-ready school construction projects. Coupled with state funding, these funds will allow us to complete the county's Schools for Our Future program, and then to begin to further address our long-term needs. But we know we needed state funding to advance these projects, which is why we supported, and we're so glad to see the General Assembly override the governor's veto of the blueprint for Maryland's future, which is now unlocking $462 million for school construction under the Built to Learn Act. So I want to thank Baltimore County's delegation chair in particular, Catonsville's own Delegate Pat Young, who's been particularly a fierce leader and partner in helping to deliver both the blueprint and Built to Learn Act for the people of Baltimore County and across Maryland. I likewise want to thank the rest of the delegation and all of our leaders in Maryland for that fight. The blueprint will help us raise teacher pay in Baltimore County, make key investments inside the classroom, and ensure that our children have the resources they need to be successful. As we continue to strengthen our schools, we are working with BCPS and a nationally recognized consultant, Canon Design, to develop a long-term plan to address our school construction needs. Through this process and in collaboration with you, our plan is to form a long-term plan that ensures every child, every teacher, every family across Baltimore County has access to a world-class learning environment. As we invest in our schools, we also are doing all that we can to keep our community safe. And I'm proud to report that Baltimore County remains a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. Violent crime declined over the past year, continuing a years-long trend downward. So I want to thank Chief Hyatt and all the men and women of the Baltimore County Police Department, and all of you. Last year, we shared an update to our crime fighting strategy, which included enhanced data and analytics, increasing crime prevention efforts in our hotspots, and participating in the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. And we are now seeing the benefits of having these measures in place. And now you can also track our crime data using new dashboards that were released last month. These can be found at baltimorecountymd.gov/BCStat. This past summer, we also heard calls for justice across the country, our state, and right here in Baltimore County. So we answered that call, becoming the first jurisdiction in the region to take a major step forward. And with the bipartisan Smart Policing Act, Baltimore County now bans chokeholds, requires additional de-escalation and implicit bias training that's ongoing. And we prevent officers with prior records of misconduct from serving in our department, codifying many other reforms also already underway. We also increased our transparency within our police department, establishing a data dashboard that tracks the use of force by and complaints against law enforcement officers. And we created the Baltimore County's first policy requiring the release of body camera footage. Baltimore County is also tackling the opioid epidemic head-on, as we continue to have the second highest number of opioid-related deaths in the state. Now, fortunately, we're not seeing the dramatic spikes other jurisdictions have seen in response to the pandemic, but we continue to lose far too many of our loved ones to addiction. That's why in our first year, we created the position of Opioid Strategy Coordinator, who worked with us to begin developing a comprehensive plan to end this epidemic. including expansion of harm reduction services like needle exchange and drug drop boxes. We're also increasing access to treatment with a new center in Owings Mills and another one planned in the early stages. We are also partnering with Shepherd Pratt to develop a hub and spoke model for service in Baltimore County and treatment. This is focused on individuals who have both mental health and addiction challenges, and we look forward to continue to look at all options to increase access to treatment. Baltimore County residents also deserve a place that is vibrant and livable for generations. So we are enacting sustainable practices that protect our planet. And we are instilling a culture of sustainability throughout county government. Over the last year, we developed our first ever greenhouse gas inventory and countywide climate action plan. We restarted glass recycling, which was suspended back in 2013. And we're pursuing other new innovations. For example, at the Eastern Sanitary Landfill, we're converting methane gas to renewable energy, offsetting an estimated 21 million kilowatt hours of county electric usage annually. We are committed to increasing funding for rec and parks and agricultural preservation. I mentioned the $35 million record funding for rec and parks. We also doubled our funding for ag preservation, now at $4 million, with a plan to continue to grow that investment in the years ahead. I issued an executive order requiring new county buildings to be built to LEED standards. And we're partnering with BG&E to install 28 electric vehicle charging stations on county properties. We will continue to do all that we can to leave a more sustainable Baltimore County for future generations. Our commitment to sustainability can also be reflected in our approach to transportation, which is why we're thinking bigger and more creatively about our approach there. In Towson, we're set to launch a circulator this year, a program we hope to replicate in communities across Baltimore County. In Middle River, we recently received our second transit-oriented development designation at the site of a former aircraft manufacturing plant. It's a nearly 2 million square foot redevelopment project called Aviation Station. And to reduce congestion, we're exploring other ways to move forward and imagine new possibilities, including microtransit and transit-oriented developments in places where it makes sense. And we remain committed to maintaining our existing roadways and keeping residents safe, with record funding being sustained for both road resurfacing and traffic calming projects. We know that improving infrastructure is more than transportation. There are also policies governing our water system that are decades old and in need of reform. That's why we're partnering with Baltimore City on a comprehensive review, and I look forward to working with Mayor Scott to modernize these critical services. Solid waste is another area that requires action. Trash going in our landfills has increased from 300 tons per day to over 1,400 tons per day. So in October, we created a solid work group to develop a 5-year plan for solid waste, and I want to thank our administrative officer for leading that effort. We issued a survey to gather input from residents, and we are now finalizing our recommendations to issue a report in the near future. We're committed to doing all that we can to keep our communities sustainable and vibrant, and we're proud of the work we're doing to support our communities and main streets. We are continuing to make upstream investments to strengthen our neighborhoods and support our young people in particular. That's why we're proud to have expanded our summer youth employment program, even amid a pandemic. This program has seen a 44% increase from 194 participants to 280, giving them new skills, experiences, and connections, something we look forward to growing further in the years ahead. We're planning the construction of 2 new PAL centers in Rosedale and Middle River. And across Baltimore County, we are making investments to revitalize our main streets. Towson continues to thrive, named a Maryland Main Street affiliate this past year. Reisterstown has been named our county's second Maryland Main Street. And Catonsville, again, Music City, Maryland, became our first ever arts and entertainment district. Over in Eastern Baltimore County, Trade Point Atlantic is continuing to breathe new life into Sparrows Point as one of the biggest e-commerce hubs in the country. I'm proud to be leading a Baltimore County that is more open, transparent, and accountable than ever before. With you and with Councilman Quirk and others, we passed an unprecedented ethics package, including lobbying reform, a now successful charter amendment to establish public financing of local elections, and the creation of the county's first ever Inspector General. Last year, we took a number of steps to further heighten accountability and transparency, launching BC Stat, our data-driven performance management system, creating open data dashboards to increase accountability for county services, and creating Open Checkbook, which is an extension of our open budget platform that now allows you to track county spending down to the contract level. We worked with the county council to move work sessions later in the day. We established a 311 line, and we created an office of community engagement to ensure that every district has a dedicated representative. And as you met her at the top of this meeting, your first district coordinator is Mandy Remmel, and she is a passionate and dedicated representative for District 1. We also recently launched the county's first ever enterprise-wide operational efficiency study. We think this is an opportunity to rethink government operations, improve our services, and also find meaningful savings where we can. So we will continue to do all that we can to make Baltimore County more transparent, efficient, and accountable, especially as we recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Because after facing an unprecedented crisis like this, our region has to work together to pick up the pieces and rebuild. And as we rebuild, we have to make a concerted effort to address the disparities that have always been there. We can't just rebuild our economy, we have to improve it. And our recovery must be holistic. So we are going to take bold actions to strengthen our business community, support our residents, and address inequities in our communities. As we recover, we'll be putting an emphasis on supporting small and independent businesses on our main streets. And we'll target resources to businesses that were hit hardest, like restaurants, movie theaters, and event venues. Some industries, such as hospitality and tourism, bore the brunt of this pandemic's economic impact. So we will be thinking creatively about how to support them. We'll also continue working with regional partners to develop a robust tourism strategy that highlights our homegrown assets right here in Baltimore County. But rest assured, we are putting all options on the table to support our business community, whether it's leveraging loan guarantees, investing on our main streets and business corridors, or expanding our small business service center. But we know that recovery works best when it's done in partnership and with an open dialogue. So we look forward to hearing from the business community and from you about ideas you'd like us to explore. Now, when this pandemic ends, we have to resolve to come back stronger than ever with family supporting jobs. That's why we're investing in the Job Connector program and making community college free for more by supporting the College Promise program. And as we continue our recovery, the county will continue our efforts to help residents meet their basic needs with continued eviction prevention and food distribution efforts. So in April, I will introduce the fiscal 22 budget to the County Council. The Council will approve this budget by May 31st. And as you know, you have an important role to play. So I look forward to hearing from you tonight about your priorities for our budget. Together, we can set our shared priorities, plan our recovery from this crisis, and ensure that we are positioned to come out stronger when we get on the other side. So with that, I will open the floor and turn things over to Pete, I believe, or Mandy.
It's me, sir. Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Before we start with questions, again, I want to thank those who have submitted their questions or concerns in advance. The County Executive will answer as many of those questions as possible. A friendly reminder for those watching through social media, you can ask a question in the comment section and the County Executive will do his best to answer them live. If we cannot answer your question tonight, Mandy Remmel, your outreach coordinator, will follow up with you. Mr. County Executive, are you ready for me to kick us off?
Let's do it.
The first question or concern is from Casey. She is writing to express her opinion that the county priorities cite specific and measurable upgrades and improvements to K through 12 schools. Reviewing the budget, there is no specific criteria outlined as to what will be done. I feel this lends itself to accountability issues since there are no specific deliverables. Stating things like upgrades to facilities is too loose for citizens to feel heard. Your budget plans for schools would be strengthened by soliciting the concerns of the schools and your constituents and providing measurable, specific line items to be addressed.
Well, thank you, Casey, for that. So two things. Look, as an educator, as a former county school teacher, as a parent, you know, the vibrancy and success of our schools are important to me, just as I know they are to Councilman Quirk. He's been another fierce advocate for education. I'm going to let Dr. Jennifer Lynch, our new Director of Educational Partnerships, talk to some of the criteria and the things that we're looking through in the My iPass process, the multi-year improvement plan for all schools. And then also I'm going to invite our administrative officer, Stacey Rogers, to talk a little bit about what we're trying to do moving towards more of outcome-based budgeting and some of the metrics we're starting to measure as a result of our budgeting practices. So Dr. Lynch and Stacy, and then if Councilman Quirk wanted to add anything.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Right now, the My iPass process is underway. That's the multi-year improvement plan for all schools. And the process is being led by Canon Design, which is a national design team. And part of what we are trying to do is create a roadmap for future capital projects that will really be surrounded with equity for all of our schools. And it is a process that is multidimensional. It includes input from stakeholders, from small focus groups, from surveys, as well as an equity measure. And all of that is taken together in order to be able to provide a roadmap for future capital projects and planning. That's underway right now. There will be more opportunities for input from our community in community forums that will be happening in June. And we expect preliminary information to be ready in July.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive, and good evening, everyone. The county is definitely moving toward outcome-based budgeting, which simply means we have aligned our priorities with our enterprise-wide strategic plan, which is the first enterprise-wide strategic plan in the county's history. And we want to thank Mr. CE for his vision and leadership to connect our priorities to our budget. In a outcome-based budgeting environment, what we do is look at the dollars that we allocate and then measure our performance against the desired outcomes that we're seeking. The school system has a strategic plan that they have developed, and they were also invited to the table with general county government to look at measurable outcomes that going forward we can tie to our financial investments from the budget that we can then share with the public to say, here's what we said we were going to do, here's what we've invested, and here's the outcome that we've received from those investments or return on investment. So we look forward to continuing to work with the school system and with all of our departments to identify key activities that support our enterprise strategic plan, and will give that transparency and accountability for the investments that we make.
Thank you, Madam Mayo. The next question concern comes in from Daryl. What is the county doing to make sure that rent relief and other economic assistance as a result of the pandemic is accessible to our English-speaking and undocumented neighbors? Our non-English speaking, I'm sorry, apologize.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, Daryl. We have seen that this pandemic has exacerbated some of the disparities, whether it's health or income, that we already knew were challenges in Baltimore County. Councilman Quirk and his colleagues on the council have been great partners as we've tried to make sure that we are addressing the essential services of those most affected. So one of the individuals helping to lead a lot of this effort, particularly around individuals and families, is Terry Hickey, one of our deputy directors in Health and Human Services. So I think I may want to ask him to invite him to say a few words on this question.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. County Executive, and thank you, Daryl, for that question. It's a really good one. First of all, at the county level, we want to make sure that no family in Baltimore County that's having issues with rent has to face barriers to receive assistance. And so we're constantly trying to look at these programs and develop more ways for people to be eligible for the funds. It's really important to note that due to the pandemic, not only do we have the most families probably in the county's history past due on rent, but the amount of rent they owe is also grown and grown over the course of the state of emergency. So the new funding that the county executive mentioned gives us a great deal more flexibility. It allows us to go back a number of additional months. It allows us to potentially fund forward while people get stable, get back to work. It also allows us to accept additional evidence of leases if you don't have a traditional written lease, which are going to benefit the populations, Daryl, you were asking about. Specifically, we've also ensured that these rental application forms are now available online in Spanish and English. And we're working with local advocacy organizations to make sure that families have access to assistance in completing these applications, and that we continue to do better in getting the word out so that nobody gets left out of these really critical resources.
Thank you, Terry. The next question or concern comes in from Deborah. My community has been working with a landowner in the area for decades. He owns the Ridgeway Manor Nursing Home and a large vacant lot that's over 6 acres. He is a longtime property owner and business owner in the district, and he has been a good neighbor to our community. He has kindly allowed us access to the property for recreational purposes such as dog walks, jogging, and playing with our kids. But he is frustrated by the tax burden and upkeep of the land and feels inclined to develop it. I believe he thinks this is the only use the county wants for vacant land is housing due to its zoning. While I may have many concerns over the zoning and development process in the county in general, I'd like to focus on this one particular parcel due to the overloaded sewer and stormwater infrastructure in the area. The land has proven to not be ideal for housing development, and many prospective developers have walked away. The owner is frustrated. Can the county provide creative support by proactively helping the owner of this property by budgeting money to preserve it as open space and allowing it to continue serving in its best role as rain and runoff absorption? At minimum, the county should be willing to provide the owner tax relief as long as the lot remains vacant and preserve an open space, because it is already benefiting the community as it is, and even increasing the values of existing properties.
So thank you for that question. Something that we share your passion for and belief in is the value of open space and the value of pocket parks and green space. And we have actually really ramped up our efforts, not just with the $35 million bond bill, but we actually have been aggressive in doing more with our program open space dollars. And I can tell you from a taxing perspective, the assessments are actually set by the state. So if the owner has some concerns about the tax level, that would be a question for the state. We hope that sort of open space would be taxed sort of much less than a developed parcel. But I can tell you, if the owner is interested, I know that I don't want to speak for her, but I'm sure that our director of Rec and Parks would be happy to have that be part of a review, at least, of our open space process. But Director Raj Johnson of Rec and Parks, I believe, is on. I can speak to both our commitment to finding, identifying, and cultivating more open space, and also can be a follow-up conduit with Mandy on this particular site if there's interest in the owner for considering it as being sustained open space.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. County Executive. Thank you so much. We were forwarded this property a little bit earlier in the week, this week. And so we meet with the county executive and Madam AO every 2 weeks on program open space. And so we will add this to our list to evaluate. We are constantly looking for acquisitions through our program open space program. And a very intelligent person asked that question, because you are 100% correct. When you live across the street or closer to a really great park, it does increase your property values. In addition to that, we are undergoing a countywide master planning process, which will help us assess neighborhood parks, pocket parks, regional parks, amount of acres we should have of park land. And once we start that process, it will be a clear and transparent process where we will have community input, and we will do a statistically valid survey to get the community's priorities, whether it's trails, whether it's parks, neighborhood parks, pocket parks, walkable trails, multi-use trails, all sorts of things, swimming pools, rec centers. So more to come on that. But yes, we certainly will evaluate it. We'll add this to the agenda next week, Mr. County Executive, and be able to give you some feedback on it as well. Thank you.
And Mr. Executive, I did want to speak up and just say that I know Kathy Ingers from our office has also been in touch with Patrick McDougall and has been looking at the site as well. So it is something that our office is aware of, and we are working together.
Perfect. Thank you.
The next question comes in from Elizabeth. She is writing to propose a discussion regarding a paved multi-use recreation path of at least 12 miles of distance within Baltimore County. At this time, Baltimore County does not have a paved multi-use recreational path that equates to any distance. Those looking for paved recreational paths have to travel out of county to the B&A Trail or the BWI Trail. Both trails are roughly 11 to 13 miles long. These trails draw visitors from all over Maryland and DC. They are used for cycling, rollerblading, running, walking, and everything in between.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I will just reiterate, I love and believe in open space, connectivity of those spaces, and have really challenged Director Johnson to take the Rec and Parks department into the 21st century. She inherited plenty of challenges, but she's up to the task. So I'll kick it over to her and Councilman Quirk, but we fully support the idea to create these kinds of opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Yes, we have noticed a 224% increase in park usership during COVID, so within the last year, and that's based on the Google Mobility COVID-19 data. So the trails will be part of our master plan. We are working with Director DeAndrea Walker with the Pedestrian and Bike Trail Committee so that we can better assess the whole entire county. Some of the land is ours, some of the land is DPW, some of the land we need easements to, but we are definitely working on it. And so we will work together, our department and DPW, to assess the feasibility for a trail such as that. I'm very familiar with the B&A Trail, and it is an amazing trail, and we'd love to have something like that here in the county. And I know our county executive and Madam AO will soon add that to my list as well, specifically. So we're happy to work on it.
Thank you, Director Johnson.
And Mr. Executive, I'll just chime in just for a brief moment. In Southwest Baltimore County, we're really lucky to have a wonderful nonprofit group, Cadensville Rails to Trails, who've done so much work in this regard, whether it's the Short Line Trail or, whether it's the trail from Cadensville to Ellicott City, the trolley trail number 9. This is something that we have a lot of really dedicated citizens working really, really hard, not only with Cadensville Rails to Trails, but with Friends of Patapsco Valley, with Patapsco Heritage Greenway. This is something that there are efforts underway in the county to look at additional trails, connecting up trails in Cadensville, for example, through Gristmill to BWI. So there's a lot of effort that the county exec's office, as well as the county council, is looking at with people such as Dave Ferraro, for example, with Friends of Patapsco Valley. So hopefully more good news to come on that, but this is one that's near and dear to me. I'm in the parks nonstop all the time, whether it's Benjamin Banneker, whether it's hiking up to Buzzards Rock. But yeah, we definitely recognize the need to have more of these trails, especially for handicapped accessibility, for making sure that the trails are accessible to everybody. So I definitely appreciate the question.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm going to switch over to a live question here from Diana. Her question is, can we help create a dashboard for school facility conditions with information about current enrollment, capacity, air quality testing results, and our drinking water results?
So thank you for your advocacy in the question. I would say yes, and we're happy to be a part of that on the county government side. I think the MyIPass plan that Dr. Lynch mentioned earlier will help provide some of that baseline information to at least start, although we also are willing to work with the school system because they would be the ones ultimately to be able to sustain that. So I don't know if Dr. Lynch wants to expand on that a bit more, if there's anyone from the school system on, but I would love to see, I think we're very proud of the dashboards that, Councilman Quirk and others have supported us doing, where the public can very quickly get a sense of where we are on any given item and hold us accountable. And to the extent the school system could do that on any number of metrics, I think we'd certainly welcome that.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. I agree. I think it would be wonderful to include the data that we will obtain from My iPass on the BC Stat website. That will provide a multiple index review of all schools. And so that's something that we can definitely talk about including on our BC Stat website. And we do always encourage the collaboration with BCPS to provide as much information so we can be as transparent as possible in all of our data.
Thank you. Next question from social media is, what's the status of Security Square Mall and the vacant restaurant front along the road?
First, I'll say we are committed to a vision of revitalization there, and I want to thank the councilman for his persistence, along with so many community members, identifying security as a site in need of our attention and our efforts. It's something we all are working on. I do want to provide an update that even as we work with the councilman and others for a larger potential redevelopment opportunity, there have been submissions of plans for the 2 pad sites on the frontage that has been reviewed and I believe initially approved by members of the planning department and the permits and inspection, but that there's a designation associated with that is currently being appealed. So that is all working through a review and appeal process at this point. So currently at the Board of Appeals, the County Board of Appeals. I believe that's right. Director Gutwald, you can tell me if I'm wrong. And then I know Councilman Quirk, this is something you've been fighting for many years, are working to have comprehensive revitalization of that site.
This is Pete Gutwald, Director of Permits, Approvals and Inspections. Mr. County Executive, yes, you have that pretty much correct. The pad sites have not been approved. They're still pending, but the planned shopping center designation was approved, and that is what's being appealed in order for that gas station to, those pad sites to be permitted as approval. They needed that designation to move forward. So that's what's being appealed currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
And Mr. County Exec, I do want to give special thanks to a lot of the County Exec's office on this issue for sure. In the last several years, I know our Chief of Staff is Stacy Rogers. I see Drew Vitter on the call. Leonard Howie has been great working on this. Dr. Branch, the work we're doing with Set the Captives Free. It's the best news about Security Square Mall is we have the investors. We have the people that want to invest and revitalize this whole area. So that is usually the issue. We don't have that issue. We have plenty of people that want to invest in this location. And another wonderful asset is we have the consumers. All around Security Square Mall is wonderful consumers with disposable income, and they want to support local business. So we have really 2 ingredients that are going to make this site eventually a great success. But as the county executive has said, unfortunately, a lot of this is still in some legal disputes. And until some of these legal disputes are worked through, we're waiting anxiously. But I did want to really kind of recognize the really teamwork and collaboration of the entire county exec office on this issue, because it's something we all recognize that this could be an amazing, and I mean exceptional, revitalization that would benefit the whole entire county. So there are definitely some very positive things underway, but I think some of them are being held back, unfortunately, with the with the appeals process and the legal entanglement. But we're looking forward to one day that being eventually past us and seeing a wonderful redevelopment. And it's going to happen. And I do appreciate Mr. Leonard Howie and the whole team really working hard on this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. The next question comes in from Hollis. He is writing to formally submit the issue of stormwater management on the 3000 block of Westchester Avenue for the county's review and comment during the upcoming town hall. He believes the county is aware of the flooding and stormwater management problems in the area that occurred due to the culvert at Westchester Avenue entrance to Trolley Trail line number 9 walking path being inadequate for the volume of stormwater that the area receives. The residents in this area have made countless good faith attempts to work with the county to resolve this issue. However, nothing has been done to mitigate the problem.
Thanks, Hollis. Really appreciate the question. It is beyond my technical expertise, but I will tell you that we are committed to working with Councilman Quirk and our communities to ensure that we're addressing all of the stormwater and flood issues across the county, which is in the capable hands of our Director of Public Works, Director DeAndrea Walker, who's on, I believe.
Yes, sir. Good evening, and thank you for that question. You are correct. The county is aware of the flooding that has been happening in that area for quite some time. I will tell you that we have been actively looking for solutions to try to deal with the flooding in the area. More recently this fall, there was a concept plan that we did internally to look at options of what we could do. And we're also looking at partnering with the department to see some other options we can put on the table. One of the things that we deal with in the county that all of the departments deal with is the expenses and costs associated with large capital programs. We are, again, looking at the partnership. We have done the study. We have some options on the table. We are looking to put some planning money in our capital budget, in our 6-year capital budget plan. But we hope to have more information that we can bring to the community because we are aware that it is a concern.
Thank you, Director. The next question is from Juliana. She would like this to be addressed. She lives in a Riverview row home community. She owns her home, and there's a problem in that community where police and federal law enforcement seem to have no clue that there is active human trafficking going on and prostitution and drug trades in broad daylight. If the local law enforcement would patrol more, maybe some of this activity would stop. However, it continues.
Thanks, Juliana. We are committed to keeping our neighborhoods safe and partnering with you. I know that Chief Hyatt and members of her team are on and can directly answer your question for you tonight.
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, thank you for the question. To begin with, I'll say this, that all of us in Baltimore County are relentlessly committed to doing everything that we can to combat human trafficking. And our police department has been involved with Baltimore County's human trafficking work group since its inception. Unfortunately, it is a crime that often goes unreported. So I would encourage our entire community to report any incidents or suspecting human trafficking or things like that to us so that we can investigate them and bring individuals to justice that are involved in that. Specifically, I would certainly turn it over to Colonel Landsman in regards to specifics in the area. I know that he has some of his team on the call as well, but I can tell you we are very active in that community, and I'm going to turn it over to him for some more specifics.
Thank you, Chief. And Captain Mitchell has been very engaged, having his folks down in that particular area of the Wilkins precinct, working with management there in that Riverview community, working on quality of life issues such as noise complaints, parking complaints, things that if left unchecked, will create an environment that is inviting to criminals to operate in. We communicate regularly with our vice narcotics team and their members of the child exploitation task force and folks who are engaged in the investigation of human trafficking cases. If we have specific information on a specific address or something in the area, we can get that information offline, and we will get that in the hands of our detectives. But Captain Mitchell and his folks will continue to conduct patrols down there. They are very active in addressing complaints, whether they be traffic or community or just some of the issues of environmental issues that they've worked with code enforcement and the property owners to address in a proactive way. So if there's some specific information that we can get to our investigators, whether you want to put it on iWatch and we'll take it that way, or we can talk offline and get the specific address, we will follow up on that promptly.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Colonel. The next questions.
Pete, one thing I want to mention too is, hey Pete.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Hey Pete, I just want to mention one thing. First of all, I do want to thank the chief and our command staff. I definitely wanted to recognize our new captain, Captain Mitchell. We've already had several really good conversations. One thing I did want to encourage the citizens out there to do is Wilkins Police Community Relations Organization. It's a wonderful group of citizens that engage with our local police in communication, working together, really trying to work as citizens and police working together. And I think that's something we do really well in Baltimore County. Is we really have an active group, whether it's the PCR groups around the county or in District 1, our Wilkins Police Community Relations Organization. It's a team. And this is an issue we have to work together on, but I can promise everybody who's listening tonight that the police in this county work hand in hand together with the citizens collaboratively. And so I would encourage whoever submitted that question, please consider joining the Wilkins Police Community Relations Organization. Get involved, come to meetings, encourage your neighbors to as well, because this is something I think we really all have to work together to keep some of these issues in check and ultimately defeat them. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. The next questions come in from Matt. There's two questions. One, I would encourage you to create an executive advisory committee to review the future of the old Catonsville Elementary School. With Catonsville being designated the county's first arts and entertainment district, this facility could be the anchor. This facility should be the home to the Arts Guild, Rec and Parks, school system, Catonsville Rec Association, and the Catonsville 4th of July Committee, just to name a few. And his second part to his question is he would like to ask the executive and DPW for the status of sidewalks and other improvements on Ingleside Avenue between Edmondson Avenue and the Baltimore National Pike in Catonsville. This is a very densely populated area, and the road carries emergency response vehicles along with MTA buses and links in less than 1 mile to two major commercial districts.
Thanks, Matt. We are big supporters of the Guild, and they are our partner in the A&E designation. We are supporting them operationally and are excited about the future there. I may be misspeaking, so if someone needs to correct me on the staff, feel free to do so. I believe the building is still under the control of BCPS and is being used for offices. We'd have to have a conversation that brought them into the mix. The councilman's giving me a thumbs up. But we certainly welcome the chance to sort of think more creatively about how we can support a vibrant arts culture in Catonsville. As for the sidewalk question, I will turn that over to DPW, but we are always looking for opportunities to ensure that our communities are safe, including sidewalks.
Thank you for the question. It was actually a two-part question, if I documented it correctly. The sidewalks along Old Catonsville Elementary School. I need to check with the highway department actually to see if they've actually done a study area. I don't know that exactly off the top of my head, but in regard to the sidewalks along Ingleside Avenue, that is a major road improvement proposal. I have submitted a proposal to the county executive to review. So we hope to possibly have some information about fairly soon.
And I'll just say that, we've heard, Matt, the police for sidewalks generally, but particularly at Ingleside. I remember being at the community association when I was campaigning for this office. I know Councilman Quirk has heard this. So we're going to take a hard look at the proposal brought forward by Director Walker, recognizing that it would probably be a multi-year approach, given that it includes, I think, everything from acquisition of property to moving of utility poles to the actual construction. But we are taking a look at what was submitted, and we appreciate your feedback.
Thank you. Next question. First, we are desperate for county and state to establish a text alert system. My daughter lives in Santa Rosa, California, and even I signed up for their text because they use it to announce fire evacuations. Having this would improve communication and transparency. I was so irritated when recycling was canceled due to the snow, but the only way that I knew was if I knew someone who knew someone. Text alerts would also be a good way to remind people what and how to recycle, include how much money it saves the county. Secondly, I think Baltimore County should establish a pride coalition to collaborate with Baltimore County city events, local businesses, as well as assisting school GSA efforts. It should be composed of members of the LGBTQ community and allies. Finally, I would like Baltimore County to consider an outreach like Howard County's #OneHoward initiative. I believe it's been changed under their current county executive, but still exists in various forms, especially in the school system.
Great. Well, thank you, Laura. A lot there. We are consistently trying to be at the cutting edge of being a modern, efficient county. It was a big win for us to bring a 311 system online. We have an app to sort of lodge questions and complaints and concerns. But certainly it sounds like there's even more opportunities about texting that we can explore. But a believer in the diversity inclusion efforts. We've been leading with those in Baltimore County. If there's a way we can look at other initiatives to do that, we want to do that too. So I think sort of open floor here between OIT, EOC, DPW on some of the questions raised by Laura. So any director or the AO or anyone who wants to jump in, we will allow them to do so.
Mr. CEO, I will jump in on the LGBTQIA+ question. At Recreation and Parks, we just launched a task force of diverse staff to look at specific programming to the LGBTQIA+ community, particularly the teens. And we have coordinated with a Baltimore City agency or I guess nonprofit. And we're also looking at doing a Pride event here in the county. So exciting things are on the forefront. So you absolutely hit the nail on the head. And so we're working on it in Recreation and Parks.
Mr. CEO, would like to piggyback on the recycling piece, which ties to the text alerts. We appreciate that feedback, particularly when we have to cancel services. But with respect to the recycling part, we are working as a part of our solid waste work group. One of our recommendations is a comprehensive education and outreach piece that we could also look at how alerts could be implemented into that outreach piece. I know our colleague, Rob O'Connor, is on with us this evening. He may be able to speak specifically to the technology part of it.
Madam Mayor, sorry for the question. On the Laura piece or on another piece, ma'am?
No, this was the notification.
This is the text notifications, Rob.
Right, notification potential for like when recycling and things are reverse notifications to community.
Gotcha. Yes, very much. So we have the BCG app that is downloadable on Android and also on iOS. It is called Baltco Go. If you go to either one of those stores, you can download the app and you can register your residents for information. Currently, trash pickup and recycling are two of the main notifications that we send through the Balco Go app, and I do encourage all residents to go out and download the application.
So promotion of that service is what we want to build into our outreach and education proposal for recycling, Mr. CE.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks, Director O'Connor.
Thank you. I'm going to switch back to a live question here from Aiden. It would be nice to see some traffic calming along Frederick Road. The fast traffic makes walking, biking along Frederick Road unenjoyable and unsafe.
Thanks, Aiden. Again, we are trying to work with communities to keep our roadways safe. Record funding for traffic calming and the road paving. We have dedicated funding, and we're pursuing walkability and bikeability throughout the county. I don't know if Director Walker wants to add anything to that, but certainly happy to take a look at your particular concerns along Frederick Road.
Sir, you are correct. You have done record funding as it relates to traffic calming measures that we've been able to install all over Baltimore County. In regards to Frederick Road specifically, I would encourage you to reach out to Mandy so that we know exactly where you're making reference. There's parts of Frederick Road that we can make some changes to. There's parts that we cannot, depending on who owns that part of the road. So I would need more information about that. And then in addition, just as it relates to traffic calming on Frederick Road, the amount of traffic on Frederick Road may affect whether or not we can do particular type of traffic calming measures. So if you don't mind reaching out to Mandy to give us some more information, we could take it from there and provide some feedback.
Thank you, Director.
And this of course would be this would of course be working together too with our state senator, our delegates, given that Frederick Road's a state road, and a lot of that would be in a team in collaboration with our state senator and delegates. We have done some traffic calming on Frederick Road. For example, close to the library, and it's a little more complicated than any of us would like to think, but it is something that we've looked at many times, working in collaboration with our state team members as well.
Thank you, Councilman. Next question comes in from Marie. She is writing on behalf of multiple neighborhood associations in District 1 along Frederick Road and Edmondson Avenue between I-695 and Baltimore City. In the last 18 months, we have been plagued with sewer overflows and backups related to infrastructure that has passed its breaking point. We welcome the efforts of the county to repair and strengthen these vital components and strongly recommend that the investments be made to improve our aging infrastructure. In addition to the outdated infrastructure, we lack open space, continuous sidewalks, walkable trails, and other amenities that would enhance the livability for all families on the east side of Catonsville.
Thanks, Marie, for your feedback. I know we touched on trails and open space with Director Johnson, so I'll just reaffirm our commitment along with Councilman Quirks for that. And then we've also talked about some of the sidewalks issues with Director Walker, who will also take your information and look at that particular site, but maybe we can also speak a little bit, Director Walker, to some of the other infrastructure issues that are raised in terms of what we're doing for sewer flows and systems here in Baltimore County and efforts to restore and invest in the infrastructure on that side of the house.
So I think that it's important to note that in District 1 in particular, as it relates to sewer rehabilitation, we have close to $80 million in our budget for District 1 sewer rehabilitation. So we are laser focused on rehabilitating our sewer structure. Of course, it's a very old system that we've been working on for many years, but we do have record funding associated in each district in order to do some sewer rehabilitation and some additional sewer connectivity. So there is a focus on it. So 801 in this year alone is quite a bit of funding, and I would say we have about 6 in District 1 particularly.
And Mr. County Exec, I might just add that there has been quite a bit of work done on this issue over many years. It's been an issue from day one when I first got elected in District 1, and some of the projects have been completed. For example, Overbrook behind Ridgeway Nursing Home to Edmondson Avenue, crossing over Edmondson, down the alley from Lambeth Road to Stratford Road. I know there's an extension about 300 feet along the alley of Stratford to Greenlow. I think it's going to begin approximately about 1 month, and I think it's going to take another month or 2 to complete. But we've spent a fair amount of resources working on this issue, and I know there's still work going on. Unfortunately, it sometimes takes years, but it is something that I know Kathy Ingers and several of the communities around here, this has been an issue that we've spent a fair amount of capital budget on, and we still have projects ongoing for sure.
And it's why, but we appreciate the community giving us the updates so we can build those long-term capital budgets and try to continue to address challenges that are out there. So thank you for raising the concerns, and we do want to work with you.
Thank you. Mary writes in from Riverview. The parking is a big issue in Rambo Court. We have a lot of people in the court that rent the townhomes from homeowners who rent from Riverview townhomes. This causes an issue of parking through the court. I am asking Baltimore County to assign permit parking spots for each household. I am willing to pay the county for a parking spot, and I know other homeowners are willing to as well.
So parking, I think maybe if the police department want to speak to any thoughts they have in terms of or suggestions relative to some of the parking issues that are out there.
County Executive, this is in that same community we were just talking about in the Wilkins precinct, and I know that Captain Mitchell has been working with code enforcement, with rental registration, and with the property owner there to address some of the parking issues where we have been able to issue citations. We have done that, obviously, with some of the things that are still in effect with the state of emergencies, such as expired tags and things like that. We can't, some residents believe that vehicle is abandoned because tags are out of date, but we have those are not going to be violations till after the state of emergency is lifted. But this is something that the Wilkins precinct is actively working on. And Captain Mitchell, do you have anything to add to that? I think.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Colonel. My outreach is in there constantly. It's Officer Callie Seaton as well as Tom Wareheim. They were down there the other day issuing parking tickets to illegally parked vehicles. I think there's some homes have a large amount of people living in them, which maybe take up a lot of spaces. There are no assigned parking spots down there, but any illegally parked vehicle we are addressing immediately. We are constantly in that neighborhood. To say that we saturated that area, it would be an understatement. So like the Colonel said, we're addressing any quality of life issues in that community as soon as they arise. So we'll stay on top of it. We'll continue to be down there.
Thank you, Captain and Colonel. I'll just reiterate what Colonel Landsman said about we really do try to provide an integrated approach. It's something that I'm keen on, our administrative officer is keen on, of not just having one department be responsible for all the solutions. So certainly we work with our police leadership, PAI, code, inspections, and try to really come up with a comprehensive solution. So Mandy and our team will also continue working with you to address some of the challenges and issues you've raised here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Thank you, Captain. Monique wrote in, can we get an IKEA where the old Shoppers used to be? This will allow for an indoor play place as well as indoor eating area and a furniture store, as well as create plenty of new jobs. This will be a fantastic addition to the area and much needed modernize the area as well. The Shoppers building has been sitting there abandoned for far too long.
Thanks, Monique. We believe in reinvestment and revitalization and growing an economy that works for everyone and having these areas revitalized. He reminds me that he's no longer new, but our still recently hired Director of Economic and Workforce Development, Leonard Howie, I believe, is on, or someone on his team. And he is trying to drive progress, not just here, but at security and across Baltimore County. So in addition to maybe hiring you to come help him work on the project, give him a chance to just say a few words about the efforts he and his team are leading.
Thank you, Mr. CE. First of all, I'll just echo what the CE said. It is very high on our list of priorities to make sure that we make smart decisions, especially when it comes to retail, on projects that will really work. The IKEA is obviously an intriguing idea. I know we have one already in the area. But the important thing is the processes that we have in place, working together with the planning department to ensure that we are gathering the input from the community and working down all leads to ensure that we do explore all the opportunities that are out there. But as CE said, we are actively searching for opportunities to fill a lot of our vacant spaces with vibrant retail and other opportunities.
Thank you, Director. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add? All right. Olivia has written in to express her support for additional budget support for environmental initiatives, including land preservation and restoration, like the work done by the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy.
I love the work that they are doing. We are, as we talked about in our presentation, we are prioritizing land preservation, ag preservation, partnering with environmental organizations. He's now our Director of Planning, but before that he was leading our sustainability efforts. So Director Lafferty, I believe, is on and maybe want to just speak to sort of some of the work we've done and what we are yet to do.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive, and thank you for that question, because I think we all feel very passionate that there should be more and more opportunities to protect and preserve land and provide more open space opportunities. In fact, thanks to Director Dave Likens, we learned that, and actually through the County Executive, we learned that the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy just received an award for their outstanding work with a homeowners association on the east side of the county. And that is the kind of model that we're trying to encourage. The Environmental Protection and Sustainability Department does fund organizations, including the Patapsco Heritage Greenway and Gunpowder Valley Conservancy, to foster these kind of protective efforts. On a larger scale, the County Executive has increased the budget for agricultural and other land preservation efforts. We now have, thanks to Councilman Quirk and other members of the council, 13 farms that we're going to seek to put in preservation so that development does not occur. At the same time, continue to do our outreach to find more properties that might be able to be brought into our ag preservation program. On a different scale, I know that Director Johnson in Recreation and Parks is working very hard to find some smaller properties that may be appropriate in the built-out communities, such as those that we see in the Southwest. So, we're undertaking some, I think, pretty active efforts. Obviously, it's only a start. We have a lot more to do. And the way that each community gets stronger is to have as much open space and open space opportunities as possible.
Yeah, and I do want to chime in just briefly on this one as well. in addition to the good work that the county is doing with ag preservation and trying to protect some of this critical open space, and as Mr. Steve Lafferty alluded to as well, I did want to give a shout out to Neighbor Space, which is a wonderful program dedicated to protecting open space inside the ERDL, often whether it's a small parcel or different land that's beneficial to the community. And the county's also been very supportive of programs inside the ERDL to try to preserve open space. And fortunately, we have a wonderful partner, Neighbor Space, that does great work here, and we hope to continue to support their efforts as well. So we're 100% on the same page. Yep.
Thank you. The Patapsco Heritage Greenway wrote in that they are proud of the role of their organization plays in the community and the positive contributions they have made to the health and well-being of residents while helping steward the historic natural culture and recreational resources of Baltimore County. They wanted to thank Baltimore County for the $60,000 of support provided by Baltimore County in the FY21 budget, and they have been able to effectively carry out its mission of preserving, protecting, interpreting, and restoring the environment, history, and culture of Maryland's most dramatic river valley. As you prepare your proposed FY22 budget, we respectfully ask that you include the same $60,000 level of funding for our organization.
I just want to say thank you for the work you do. Proud to support you, and look forward to supporting you further in the years ahead.
County Executive Dave Likens.
I'd echo onto that is.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, just very briefly. I can't say enough positive stuff about Patapsco Heritage Greenway. They're just an amazing group, really exceptional, dedicated volunteers, and was really happy to work with them on whether it was zoning issues. We worked on many different zoning issues and planning issues together. And also with Simpkins Mill, we worked a lot on that one. And, of course, the designation itself, the Greenways designation. And so, we got Catonsville Rails Trails, Patapsco Heritage Greenway, Friends of Patapsco, Neighbor Space. We got a lot of wonderful programs that we partner with. And I greatly appreciate the support of the county exec on these programs. Very, very good ally here. And so I do want to just thank the volunteers and the exec's office for their strong support here.
And Dave Likens from Environmental Protection. I also want to reiterate what the councilman said. They're one of our newer watershed associations. They do great work. They're very enthusiastic. We're very happy to have them in our fold of one of our watershed associations that we give grants to. And I can assure them that we're evaluating our watershed grants for the FY 2022, but they will certainly be receiving what they received last year.
Thank you, Director. Next question comes in from Teresa from Riverview. She would like to know what steps are Baltimore County taking to enforce the current codes with code enforcement and rental registration?
Thanks, Teresa. I'm going to give that over to Director Gutwald to talk a little bit about, but what I also wanted to just mention is that Councilman Quirk actually helped spur a work group on this issue that had some recommendations that we're looking at, and maybe the director wants to mention on this, is just about how we are trying to also elevate the existing structures and functions in place in this space and in code enforcement generally.
Sure, thank you, Mr. County Executive. Good question. Yes, we are moving towards, implementing a lot of the task force on code enforcement, the recommendations outlined in that task force. We are also trying to leverage other funds to increase our enforcement activities. But in particular, some of the things that we're dealing with, rental registration, where I just met with staff this morning to start looking at the rental registration and what kind of activities or things we need to implement, whether it's in legislation or not, to try and enhance and improve what we're doing with vacant registrations and improve the code enforcement on on vacant and abandoned properties, as well as rental registrations throughout the county. In addition, I'm working with the law office to look at ways where we have repeat offenders who are not following the rules and the regulations with code enforcement. So we're looking at other options through our code enforcement process for penalties, whether it's not just the liens, but the citations, but what further actions that we can do to sort of grab people that aren't following the rules, their attentions, to grab their attention, so to speak. So I don't know if the councilman wants to speak on that as well.
And I just want to thank Director Gutwald. He's a great guy. We've been in constant communication on many issues. So I just appreciate the teamwork we have here at all.
Thank you, Councilman. The next one is from William. 8 people asked about this. The pandemic shows that trails, parks, and green space are in high demand for walking, biking, hiking, and enjoyment of nature. Unfortunately, they are in short supply in many parts of the Catonsville community, where lack of sidewalks prevent meaningful connectivity, particularly along the North Rowan Road and Ingleside Avenue. I have also learned that there are problems with the county's open space law that are making open space shortages worse. Please fix the open space law and its enforcement so it creates open space where it is really needed and there is more money to create and maintain parks, trails, and nature areas in communities like mine. Please also consider creating an open space COVID relief fund to provide green spaces and trails in our older communities.
William and 8 others. I'm sure a COVID relief fund for open space would be music to the ears of Director Johnson. Additionally, we are actively looking at and working to address the open space fees and requirements as well. I think Director Lafferty has been active in that work. He may be the best director sort of give an update on sort of where we are and where we're trying to head in the months ahead.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. I can just add a little bit on to what you've just said. That yes, we're very aware of the concerns regarding local open space and accessibility of open space in the existing communities. We're working to present a new fee for waivers of open space, which are permitted under county law. We're also revising the open space manual that applies to development activity, and we'll look at criteria and standards for the developments as they provide open space. There's certain things that are currently permitted. Some people may call loopholes. We've had a lot of conversations with advocates, particularly with representatives of neighbor space that the councilman referenced earlier, and expect to look at this issue because when the law was developed, we were in different times, and as the needs continue to grow and have been highlighted during the pandemic, we recognize we need to revisit these issues.
Thank you, Director. Councilman, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think Director Lafferty absolutely nailed the question. I mean, he's exactly right. We have a lot of communities, a lot of older communities that were built long before we required sidewalks and curbs, and but we're definitely working on it. It's a very expensive item, but we hear what you're saying, and I think we all absolutely agree.
Thank you. Our next one comes in from Yolanda. How often do residents need to update their handicap sign parking permit? I believe neighbors have passed on and family members renting out their home are using the handicap space for parking as an incentive. How long can someone keep pod boxes in a residential area on the street? I have always had issues with neighbors double parking and blocking me in. What can I do to resolve this issue?
Thanks, Yolanda. DeAndrea, is that a question that you have access to, or maybe also be some state implications? But
yes, right. So the parking, the handicap parking, we do applications in association with MVA for handicap parking in front of homes in Baltimore County. Typically, well, the rule is when the tag expires, the handicap parking space expires unless you renew it again and you get another sticker without an expiration date. There's typically an expiration date on that tag. Now, if they pass it over to another family member in a different vehicle, that vehicle is associated with that tag. There's a tag on the back and the front and should be a hanging tag. That's usually when we give the parking spot. So if they move the vehicle to another family member, I don't know how we would control that, but if it's expired, we typically take down the parking location for them. Hopefully that answers your question. The pods, I don't have an answer on the pods.
Thank you, Director.
But we'll find out for you.
Mm-hmm.
We will have Mandy Remmel look into that one. I'm going to jump over to a live question that came in on social media. What is the status of the new Wilkins police station?
So I am going to give Director Blades, if he is on. We have not heard from the Office of Budget and Finance tonight, who gets to help craft all of these priorities too. So you might want to make Director Blades your best friend anyways. And I think if Chief Hyatt wants to add anything, she can jump in as well here.
Yes, I will certainly give Chief Hyatt the opportunity to respond. But yes, under property management, we are working with the police department to kind of define the layout of the building and trying to define what the needs are for the precinct. However, we're also taking two paths. The first path would be, do we look at the existing site, try to make it work on the existing site? And how would we relocate the precinct if we stay at the existing site? And also kind of pursuing other options for property opportunities. But we do not have a specific site identified at this point. So it is being worked on. We're kind of trying to develop the specs as far as we can until we finalize a site. And Chief, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think that you really covered it. Our team has been working very closely with property management on this. We know it's an old building. I think early 1960s is when it was built. Compared to the rest of our precincts, it is definitely the one that is due to get replaced. Next. And you know, when we're able to replace it, that's going to have huge benefits for the community as well. And we're excited about it, but it is definitely going to be a process to get there.
Councilman, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think it's been answered, but I appreciate the county exec support here, and I know we got significant issues at this location, and look forward to a new station, and eventually also tackling the Kaysville Fire Station as well.
Thank you.
One thing we'll say, District 1, you have a councilman who has no problem asking and advocating for and alongside you, which we appreciate. So let us know what the needs are out there.
We have 2 remaining questions.
Yeah, I was watching Director
I'm sorry, Councilman, go ahead.
Pete, I was just joking. I was just watching Ed Blade's reaction when I said that. I was just trying to, just casually mention the Kaysville Fire Station. It's a small budget item, Ed. Just small.
I'm surprised Chief Brun didn't speak up at that point too.
Yes, because she spent a lot of time there.
Yes, I have, and I am very excited to work with Director Blades to move that project forward, sir.
Well, thank you all. We have 2 remaining questions, and then we'll wrap it up for closing remarks with the county executive and Councilman Quirk. This next one comes in from Gail. She requests that the county continue to fund the agricultural land preservation program. at the 1% of the capital budget, which they have done in the past. Baltimore County has been a leader in the state, preserving more than 62,000, but that is far short of the minimum goal of 80,000 acres. In addition to that, she has another question to ask the county to add funds to provide bulk pickup in communities around Baltimore County because there's too much trash along our roadways and being dumped.
Again, I just will reiterate my support for growing our budget and investment in the preservation, and also have heard from communities about finding more ways to address both trash litter and dumping. So I don't know if any of the department heads want to speak to any of those issues again, but we'll, bulk trash, for example, is something that's been raised in several other town halls. It's been part of the consideration of Administrator Rogers' work group on the 5-year plan. Certainly would be a new cost that we'd have to factor as part of the budget, but we are trying to look at these issues very seriously.
Mr. County Executive, I can address the land preservation issue. It was touched upon earlier. As you've indicated, your budget actually increases by more than 1% the money available for land preservation in 2024 and 2026. And we've been able to add properties into the easement program, into our own county agricultural preservation program, and are actually working with 5 different groups to increase our rural legacy commitment as well. So I think we are moving in that direction. I appreciate Gail's comments because we all recognize the need for land preservation.
Thanks, Director Lafferty. Agree.
Thank you, Director. And the last question of the night comes in from Dawn. She is a resident of Catonsville that lives on Hilltop Road, and she has a suggestion she would like to propose for Baltimore County to put in the budget to propose sidewalks around Catonsville High School along Hilltop and or Valley Roads. Students need to walk along those busy streets to get to school from their Catonsville homes near that intersection.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate that feedback. I think Director Walker and her team can take a look at it. The other thing I'm very proud our team is doing is we also try to leverage outside resources, be they federal or state. And I think last year we had one of our first awards for safe routes to schools for sidewalks at other locations. So that perhaps may be something else we want to look at. Director Walker, I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
So we have several schools that have this year will be receiving sidewalks along the Safe Route to Schools program. I would need to look and see if Catonsville High School, we are focusing on the high schools this year. We did focus on the elementary, middle, and now we're going into the phase of the high school. So I would need to look and see if Catonsville High School is one of those schools that are under the umbrella of Safe Route to Schools.
Thank you, Director. With that, Mr. County Executive, I will turn the floor back over to you for some closing remarks.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you for facilitating. Thanks again to all of the directors and members of our team for showing up. Special thanks to Councilman Quirk for his partnership and his time tonight in District 1, but most importantly, thanks to all of you for your partnership and your support as we continue to grow our county and become stronger and better in the years ahead. This will be yet another budget that is influenced by your feedback and these questions. If you got an incomplete answer or need additional information, Mandy Remmel will be following up, but it is our pleasure to serve you and partner with you to build a better Baltimore County. And we're looking forward to the budget process. In the meantime, as we're doing that, make sure we stay safe out there. Make sure that you keep your distance, wear your mask, wash your hands, and most importantly, get your vaccine when you're eligible. So, Councilman Quirk, any last thoughts before we wrap tonight?
I just wanted to thank you, Mr. County Executive, and your leadership team. You know, I have the grid up so I can see everybody on this call, and there's a ton of people on this call. It's very very impressive. It's late in the evening. We have the whole entire leadership of the Baltimore County government here. And so I did want to thank all the directors, the whole leadership team. I want to thank all the citizens too that took time to submit questions, to get engaged and get involved. And I just appreciate the town hall format. I definitely appreciate everybody's effort and everybody's time. And thanks again, Mr. County Exec.
Thanks, Councilman. Everybody, thanks again for your time. Stay safe. See you soon.